I'll make you a deal. Unlock this cell and I'll give you this. There's no other way out of that parking garage, believe me.
Sorry, I can't do that. I have to talk to the chief first.
Look, we're both prisoners in this station. So either we play nice and help each other out, or... Shit. It's coming.
What? What's coming?
Come on, don't be an asshole. Okay, you need this! Just get me the fuck out of here!
Oh my god.
Mr. X made his first appearance in Resident Evil 2. He is a T-00 Tyrant that follows Claire and Leon throughout their time in Raccoon City. He is much like the Terminator, only he does not use a weapon, as he is the weapon itself. Most Tyrants rely on their abnormally large claws to dispose of their victims, while the T-00 Tyrant is capable of crushing a man's head with a single hand. There are many clones of the T-00 Tyrant known as T-103 models. These were a series of mass-produced human bioorganic weapons that were modified from the T-103 Tyrant seen in the first Resident Evil game. But let's take a look at every design of Mr. X and its clones, starting with its first appearance being in Resident Evil 2. Most Tyrants have a frightening appearance that easily tells you that you must avoid them from getting close enough to strike. Their weapons are in plain sight, but the T-00 Tyrant is out to bash your brains in with its own fists. The thing I like about his original design is that it almost makes him look like he's human, but he's like the Terminator as mentioned earlier. He can't be reasoned with. You can either fight or run away from them, but now, even in his new remake appearance, you only have one option: run and avoid him at all costs. What's great about defeating him in the original is that he'll always drop an item such as the first aid kit to make up for the punishment it took to temporarily beat him. What I noticed about the T-00 Tyrants is that even though they are under Umbrella's control, they do think for themselves, as they each carry an ability to transform into an even more dangerous adversary, but they choose to keep it hidden and only use it as a last resort. They know their own strengths, which is what makes them cocky enough to not only keep their final form hidden, but they'll even approach their targets by walking towards them, like Michael Myers or Jason Voorhees. Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City and the Dark Side Chronicles both use the same design from his original appearance, only with the addition of enhanced graphics. Then there's the Resident Evil Damnation design. To best describe this one, I'd say it's the engineer Mr. X, since it looks like one of the aliens from Prometheus. It's not a bad design. It does make Mr. X look like he's upgraded into an armored trench coat. I'm sure they didn't want to go with the classic design since it has less details, but if they had to make changes, this is the best way to make his original design look even cooler. Mr. X's design in the Resident Evil 2 remake gave him more of a noir appearance, which is great because it works well with the trench coat, even including a fedora which you can simply shoot off his head. What's even greater is that the developers included the sound of his footsteps, which give you an idea of how heavy this tyrant must be. And that's when you know you need to start running, especially since you can't take him down in this version. You can only get him to take a knee. The one problem about Mr. X's final form in the remake is that it doesn't exactly appear to make him seem even deadlier than in his regular form. He may have these enormous claws on one arm, but his mutation also makes it an easier weak point to aim at. His final form is supposed to look like a transformation that makes him look a lot stronger, but here, I believe he only mutated this way because Birkin ripped a chunk out of him. But then we see that he only mutated this way after the lab was about to self-destruct, and whenever you play the scenario where Birkin tears him apart, he does not appear at the end of the game. I was hoping that he would have two separate transformations. The one we got where he has only one arm mutated with his jaw missing, and the real final form where he fully transforms having giant claws on both arms. But since that didn't happen, his remake final form seems like a bit of a letdown. It's a good design, but not as good as his original final form, in my opinion. The Resident Evil 3 manhwa Mr. X looks like the exact design of his classic RE2 appearance. They didn't include anything new to his design, which is definitely playing it safe, but it's way better than the versions seen in the Resident Evil 2 manhwa. You'll see why in a moment. Even his final form design is an exact replica of his video game version. If you liked the original designs for the T-00 Tyrants, then the RE3 manhwa has you covered. But looking at the Resident Evil 2 manhwa designs, this one carries the most bizarre designs of Mr. X and the rest of the T-00s. First, let's look at its first form wearing the trench coat. His design is very far-fetched. He's too bulky and blocky. Sometimes with the art style, it's impossible to tell just how tall is he. He's more of a robotic Frankenstein than a tyrant. The most I can say that best describes this design is by calling it the Pinhead Mr. X, since he looks like Pinhead from the Puppet Master films. But let's look at the rest of the abominations. Here we have an armored Mr. X, which is supposed to be the transformation of a T-00 Tyrant, but we've never seen this version before. And that must be because the illustrators for the Resident Evil 2 manhwa tried exploring separate takes on the transformation of a T-00 Tyrant. Remember, these were made before Resident Evil 4 was even made, so since there wasn't really much information about the different kinds of Tyrants that could be made, they tried making different mutations of the T-00 Tyrant, and this was one of the variations they came up with. Later throughout the RE2 manhwa, we get a brief appearance of a T-00 wearing a winter coat. Nothing much comes out of this one, so I'm guessing it's the same as the T-00s wearing the trench coat. But perhaps his final form is not the same as the armored version, since they introduced yet another transformation for a T-00 Tyrant, only this one is more of an underwater type. This is the appearance of the underwater T-00 Tyrant. When it made its first appearance, it actually looked like it was going to be something similar to Metal Seedramon from Digimon. But then they slapped the pinhead on the tip of its mouth. It's an odd looking design, but probably the deadliest of all final form T-00 Tyrants, at least if it's fighting underwater. I think they could have gone without the pinhead on the tip of its mouth, but I think they included it just to easily identify what this creature was. They did include the final form scene in its original version of the games, but it looks like it's more similar to the Tyrant from the first game than its final form from the second game. So in other words, they had many executions, but none of these designs introduced in the RE2 manhwa are worth keeping. They aren't better than the original design of the tall, pale, buff, bald man in a trench coat. The best design would have to go for the RE2 remake's design, since it's an overall improvement.
This is getting old. Saving your ass, that's twice.
I didn't realize you were keeping score.
Look, this isn't a game.
You're gonna kill me.
Nothing dies down here. I take it you have the key card.
Yeah, and this. I was hoping you could explain what's on it.
Maybe. After I hear it. Let's get out of here.
So these were the different kinds of designs for the T-00 Tyrant throughout the franchise. But before we end this video, I gotta give a shout out to those who donated on my latest 3-part live streams of completing Claire's B scenario in the Resident Evil 2 remake. Thank you Alfamar Deltilos, Michael King, R.I.P. State Reaper, HP Skaterpa, Senia Perales, Sandy Quinn 50, Toon Blast Fan, The Dark Paragon, Jason Cole, The O'Brien Bros, and Brian Clow. Some of you even donated more than once, so again, thank you all very much for your support. I hope to see you all in the next stream. I'm not sure when I'll be streaming the next one, since there are a few projects I'm trying to release before moving on to the next stream, but maybe I can try it out sooner if it takes too long to finish these projects I'm currently working on. But with that said, that's it for the video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a like, share, and subscribe if you haven't. But most importantly, be sure to turn on notifications because YouTube won't bother to do its job even if you're subscribed. If you're a Patreon supporter, check out the exclusive videos on my Patreon. Go support the channel, which is only $1. Sacrifice that McChicken for extra quality content, my friend. But anyways, I'll see you all in the next video, and remember to have an awesome day.